Hails, minions and mortals, this is Fang from Lords of the Trident. Besides technical ability, one of the biggest things that prevents bands from getting into in-ear monitoring is cost. The general cost of a simple in-ear monitor setup for a 4-person band can be around $3,000 just to start, just from the get-go. And if you want to upgrade your ears, if you want to upgrade the actual things that go inside of your noggin, that can get really expensive as well. The simple Shure 215s, the single driver earphones that come with all of the base model Shures, retail for around $99 US. If you want to add in more drivers, that is, if you want to add in more speakers into your monitors, the cost goes up exponentially. So upgrading these puppies and getting a cleaner, clearer sound can be really, really expensive. I've had a lot of people ask me, Fang, what in-ear monitors do you use, and are there any cheaper alternatives on the market? And the answer to both of those questions for a long time was KZ brand in-ears. KZ is a brand out of China, and they make shockingly inexpensive in-ears for the number of drivers or speakers, you can think of it, that they put in these monitors. For a while, I was using the KZ ZS6s, that is 3 drivers in each ear, and I think these cost me around $42 for 3 drivers. Compare that with the 1 driver, the single driver, Shure 215s that are 99 bucks. I don't think I've bought a pair of KZ headphones that I spent over $150 on. I've got a pair of ZS6s, which is 3 drivers in each ear, ZS10s, which are 5 drivers in each ear, and ZS16s, which are 8 drivers in each ear. I was using the 16s and the 6s for most of our shows up until I got my custom molded Alclair in-ear monitors. And we did a monitor shootout before where we listened to all of the KZs that I had, plus the Alclairs, and tried to figure out which one sounded better. The wonderful people at KZ have sent me their brand new KZ ZS16 Pros, which are the upgraded model of the ZS16. I'm really excited and interested to try these out. So we're gonna do another shootout here today and see how these 16 Pros stack up against the rest of the cheap in-ear monitors. By the way, we now have hats and pins available in the merch store. Okay, I'm gonna start off by listening to the Shure 215s, and I'm listening, of course, to our latest album. Gonna listen to Acolyte here. Let's give it a shot. The first thing I'm noticing out of the 215s is that they're very bright. The bass on here is a little subdued, and the mid-range that you've got is really on the upper end of the mid-range. I'm gonna put a frequency spectrum analysis of these headphones right up over here. Not a lot of low end. It's really just kind of like that upper low end, which is kind of what you'd expect because there's a lot of work being done by just one speaker, just one driver inside of this thing. The vocals are pretty clear, so seems generally okay there. But overall, not super impressed by the 215s. Could be a little bit better. Okay, up next we've got the KZ ZS6s. These were my long-time in-ear monitors, and I picked them because they have a really, really wonderful bass response. At least that's how I experienced it. They've got 3 drivers in each ear, so 6 total. Let's give this a listen here. Oh yeah. Bass is way, 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 way more present, and the whole bass spectrum way more present. I got a lot more low end, and still quite a bit of high end on this. It's still a little crispy. It's not quite as crispy as the 215s, but it does come through quite cleanly on the upper end while still having just a whole big chunk of bass right at the very bottom end. Vocals are coming through pretty cleanly. A little bit more of a boost in the low mids of the vocals, so they sound maybe a little bit more muddy than the 215s, but that's got to be expected with the overall bass presence on these guys. I think I'd still use this to sing to because the bass response is so good on it, and that's primarily where my tone center lives when I'm trying to match tone. Okay, next up is the ZS10s. That's 5 drivers in each ear. Let's see how this stacks up. Immediately, I'm noticing that it's not as clear, and it's really like almost muddy on the upper mid-range, and the high range is just not as present as it was in the ZS6s. That's really strange, because these have more drivers. You'd expect them to be way more clear, way more separated. And this almost has the same response as the 215s, to be perfectly honest, in terms of low bass. There's almost no low bass on this. Maybe the lowest of the low frequencies are more pronounced than they are in the 215s. But overall, this just sounds kind of flat. Like, I don't think I'd want to use these to listen to music. I don't think I'd want to use these to monitor myself. I think these are actually probably the worst so far, unfortunately. Might be good if you use a really heavy mid-range guitar and not much else. But, you know, the high end has a bit of a crisp to it, but again, it's just not as present as the ZS6s, which is really kind of disappointing. Okay, after that last outing, let's hope that the original ZS16s fare a little bit better. Now, these are not the new ones. These are the original ZS16s that I was using for many years, or for many months, I should say. I probably used the ZS6s longer than I use these things. But let's take a listen. Oh my God. Okay. I'm gonna say that my review still stands from last time. These things are crispy. Crispy, 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 crispy. They are nearly deep fried. The high end on these things is just biting, attacking, snarling, absolutely cuts like a knife. The low end is there, but it's nowhere near as present as on the ZS6s. But my God, if you want to hear like the high end of things, woo! These absolutely cut through. Might be good if you're using, you know, these to monitor a really high frequency, high end instrument. I don't know, maybe a piccolo or something like that. These were good for singing into, because I mean, I heard a lot of the high end of my voice, but listening to it now, I'm really noticing the top end of the spectrum and a little bit of the low end of the spectrum. But really, the high end is overpowering. So bright. Yeah, I still say these things are probably the most trebly in-ears that I've ever dealt with. Wow. Okay, before we move on to the main event and try the ZS16 Pros, I want to give my custom molded Alclair in-ears a shot. Now these are Spires, so these have, I believe, 3 drivers in each ear. They're a 6-driver in-ear. They're either 6 or 8, one of the two. But let's have another listen on these and let's see how these stack up. Low end, much to a lot more beef down there. The high end is also pretty present. It's nowhere near as crispy as the ZS16s, so it may kind of roll off near the top a little bit. But the big thing that I'm noticing is that the sound is a lot more spacious in my ears. It's a lot more spread out. So it feels like the separation of frequencies is a lot better in this than any of the other in-ears, maybe besides the ZS6s that I've had. Not quite as bright on the upper end. Theoretically could be a little bit brighter on the upper end and a little bit beefier on the low end, but it's got a good overall sound, and I've been using them for a while now, and I have been very impressed with them. Yep, generally, I probably would use these to just generally listen to music, because the overall spectrum is pretty well balanced, and even the mid-mids don't get too muddy. They get a little bit bogged down in the middle, but not too bad. Not as bad as some of the other in-ear monitors. Definitely nowhere near as bad as like the 215s. Okay, the moment of truth. These are the KZ ZS16 Pros. First off, I gotta say the finish on the outer edge of it it's really nice. I really love that faceplate look. I really haven't had any other in-ear monitors kind of like that before, and it just kind of looks nice. So, looks nice. Does it sound nice? Let's find out. Okay, first thing I notice is that the bass is back, baby. We have a lot more of that low end comparatively to the ZS16 originals, especially compared to the ZS10s, and especially compared to the Shure 215s. It might be, maybe about as much bass as the ZS6s, but I think the ZS6s have a little bit more low-end response. That being said, low-end on these are really good. And the upper mids, where the vocals live, are really clean. Super duper duper clean. My vocals are popping through this like nuts. The high-end, the cymbal splashes, definitely sounds very, 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 very clean. Not quite as crispy and deep fried as the original ZS16s. These ones are a lot more tame and a lot less bitey. That being said, there is still a decent amount of high end on this. Honestly, this compared to my ZS6s, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with how they retooled the original 16s and made these sound so much better. I think adding back in that bass was the right move. And at least for listening to music, I would absolutely use these in a heartbeat to listen to any type of music. I think these are wonderful. Would I use these for in-ear monitoring? I think I probably would, actually. So it's got enough bass to keep me happy in terms of listening for the center of tone for me to sing to listen to that bass frequency. But it also is pretty crispy. The only thing that I'd be worried about a little bit is maybe just, you know, having a little bit too much high end. That's what I ran into with the 16s before. These seem to have fixed the problem. I'd be interested to try them in practice. I've been listening to them just out in the wild for a little bit now, and generally I think they sound great. So I would 100% recommend the KZ ZS16 Pros, especially for the price. These guys retail for about $73 to $75 for 16 drivers, for 8 drivers in each ear. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. My Alclair custom molded ones were around $800 to $900, and they only have 3 or maybe 4 drivers in each ear. To have 16 drivers that sound this good for $75, I would just pick up a pair just to have as a backup, even if you already have custom molded in-ears, even if you already have a favorite pair, even if you just want something to listen to music. These things are phenomenal. Once again, I want to thank KZ for sponsoring this video, for sending those ears over for me to try. It was really fun to do this again, especially with the retooled version of the 16. If you have any ears that you guys think might beat the 16, especially considering the price tag, please let me know and we might do another shootout here. And I want to thank all of the wonderful, amazing metal warriors on our Patreon, patreon.com/Lords of the Trident. We are the #1 most funded independent metal band on Patreon for a reason. Go check us out, patreon.com/Lords of the Trident. And remember, we've got hats. Check out these hats with the nice underbrim from the offering. We've got pins. We've got the Michi the Warrior pin. We've got the Lords of the Trident logo pin. Those are available in the store right now, lordsofthetrident.com/merch. Until next time, guys, stay metal.